this rolling?
Is that your feet? Your feet hitting that?
That mic is. Exactly.
There is a light there, but it burned out.
Well, he.
Greg don't like the mics.
I hate mics to begin with.
School board is actually having a hard time with that one the other night. No one was sitting there, it was just kind
Yeah,
of.
I know, I remember, yeah.
Needs to
This
be,
is where the ghost sits, that's why they stuck me down here.
Greg, it'll need to be right directly aimed at your body so that it doesn't echo. Thank you.
Beat it into submission because it's not making any noise.
I typically do, Doc.
Exactly.
I
I
typically
beat
do.
it into submission.
Compared school committee meetings, they speak up, you can hear them.
Hello?
Guys whisper to each other.
Yes, yes we do.
The recorder's on, we're all set.
It's all good. We're gonna wait for Gina because I think she was.
Oh, yes, she is
Yeah,
here.
she just stepped out for a second.
Sure she didn't go far.
My favorite.
Oh.
Well, I gotta
I,
remember
uh,
that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6,
I knew we had another piece here.
That's such a waste of paper.
12, 13.
If you actually made the recommendation, I'm sure they would stop.
I'm going to. I think it's a good
Should I
idea.
do, by that?
Almost.
Should I do that by
16
email
pages
or
that
call?
you can't correlate to the
I think
top
if you
page.
actually were to just get up at one of the meetings and just ask. School board.
That works.
Everyone gets shot after.
They get the same per paper, so. No, you won't. I mean, as long as you get the head page, right?
That's all I want.
That was in my notes.
That's all I use when I get my magnifying glass out. That's all I use. The front paper.
Well, the problem is it's really hard to make 1 + 1 = 2 through the rest of it because it's just,
I don't know how to read the other part of it.
yeah, that's what I mean. It's very confusing.
That's the only reason.
Did Gina say anything when she stepped out? She just,
Sounds like a no-brainer to me.
She didn't take her car, her keys are here.
yeah, our keys are here.
I'm gonna call Garrett.
Oh, okay.
Because Garrett wasn't gonna come until 7:30.
Did we already get these?
And he'd come before 7.
We already saw these.
Because we will get,
I'm just-
hopefully
that's-
most of this. We'll see.
Oh, no, I didn't see this one.
Yeah, well, you know. I just didn't do the,
Okay, thank you, Mark.
I just didn't do the full 24
Alrighty.
pages because some of it
Folks, all ready?
was reading material.
I'd like to bring this meeting to order. Please rise for pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Garrison?
Present.
Counselor Bickford?
Present.
Counselor Pesky?
Present.
Counselor Ward?
Here.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Here.
Counselor Mason? She is
She is
here.
here, yes.
Okay. And Counselor Lunt?
Here.
First item, please.
There is no public hearing? Yes, there is a public
Present.
hearing. It will be the supplemental appropriation ordinance.
I would like to open a public hearing at this point for the supplement appropriation that we'll be voting on tonight. Yes.
Larry Fillmore from Lisbon. Section 86-1 Fundamental Balance Policy in the town ordinance is very clear to a normal person. Paragraph B states the level of fund balance that the town strives to maintain as undesignated is an amount equal to 12.5% of the town's general balance, town and school, i.e. an amount equal to 6 weeks operating expenses from the then current operating budget. Currently, the undesignated fund is short $226,459 because of an unfavorable expenditure. Neither the auditors nor the town councils explain this expenditure to the people, and we have a right to know. What is an unfavorable expenditure, and how much did it cost the town? This is relevant because the undesignated fund is short. There is no legal way this supplemental appropriation can be legal. Paragraph C of Section 86-1 states, once the town achieves its goal of an appropriation level of undesignated fund balance. Any excess funds may be utilized for other municipality fiscal purposes, including without limitation. Additional capital improvement needs or tax rate stabilization or reduction purposes. I believe this council will totally ignore me as they have in the past. But can you ignore the charter? Thank you.
Anybody else for the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Next item, please.
Is audience participation. At this time, those in the audience who wish to address the council may come forward to address items or issues that are on the agenda for this meeting. Please use the microphone and the lectern. State your name and address for the record.
Thank you. I'd like to open audience participation, if there's any interest.
Dorothy Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls. My comment is on that same vein. Further down, supplemental appropriation is to cover the wage increases that were given at a previous meeting. And wage increases should have been discussed and done during the budget season, not after the budget season and after the town books have closed for the fiscal year, and not try to take it out of somewhere where you shouldn't be taking it out of. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is not the way to operate a town.
Ross Cunningham in the Lisbon Falls. It's not on the agenda, I apologize, but I'd like to thank Fern and Gina on their last meeting for the last 7 years. I appreciate your help making this town a better place. I am here on behalf of PCL today with their support to strongly support the 196 Master Plan. A lot of work has gone into this, and I want to make sure that the council knows that we are fully behind this, and we'd like to see this implemented. We very much would like to see it not only implemented, but the council appointed, and if, as funds become available, they get donated to this project, and certainly have the council and other town employees work to find alternative funding for this plan. I know that there have been plans in the past that have wound up on bookshelves and are covered in dust, and I think that a lot of work was put into this one, and I think it's really got a lot of promise, dedicated a lot of time and energy to it, and I hate to see it wind up on shelves. So just on behalf of PCL, thank you for all that energy and effort, and I'd like to see it push forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Any other interest in audience participation? Seeing none, we'll close that. Next item, please.
Audience participation response.
There's none tonight.
Next item is the consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. Items removed from the consent agenda will be considered next. Order 2013-172, a renewal victuals license for the Dairy Maid.
Entertain a motion.
Make the motion to accept.
I'll second.
And so we're voting on the consent agenda item for the renewal of the license for Kitty Corner. All those in favor?
Dairy Maid.
Dairy Maid, sorry, what am I thinking? Dairy Maid, last night, see that? I gotta go away. Dairy Maid. All those in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
See, and I practiced all day for that, and I messed it up. The next item, please.
Under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances, Order 2013-173, the E911 road name change.
There's been a request to change a road, and according to the E911, it has to come before the council. Currently it's called Bella's Drive, and they'd like to change it to Tall Timbers Lane. So just needs a vote. She's gone to our E911 addressing officer, who's Kathy Malloy, made this request, and it's being forwarded to you.
Entertain a motion for discussion.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion or concerns? Seems pretty straightforward. It sounds like they've done all the paperwork.
Yep.
This is the only person that abuts the road is their property.
I think so. Is anybody
That's
else
what it
on that
looked like on
road? No?
No,
There's-
there's nothing there, it didn't even exist.
Thank you.
And it's actually a business on this road?
Eventually, yes.
Eventually, okay. If there's no other questions, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Next item, please.
Order 2013-174, the Route 196 Master Plan.
Which one are you going to address that?
Don, I think, was going
Don?
to start first and then work his way through.
I'd like to introduce you to Amanda Bunker, if you don't know her. Never mind. Some of you have heard this before, and I'm going to say what I have written because I wrote it, and I took the time to write it, so please listen. It was asked before, why a master plan? And most of you know why, but for those of you who may not, what travelers and residents too see on Route 196 as they go through town does not positively nor accurately reflect upon who and what we are in this town. And overall, the image is a negative one. Some areas are in disrepair or just not in tune with the community. While there are properties that reflect great community interest on the part of the owner, at the other extreme, there are some that show little evidence of civic pride. We all know that one negative can cancel the good effect of several positives. Our comprehensive plan has broad goals and objectives, but does not have specific guidance. So this master plan will set a stage for ordinance revision, for change in policy, and for funding opportunities and incentives to improve. In effect, we'll give a guiding light to those who want to make their property better, but may not know how or are challenged by everyday events, that they have little time or in order to see the forest for the trees. The goals are to add to the visual character of the corridor, to seek and establish an avenue for investment in economic development, and to create or enhance what is called quality of place. That's Amanda's favorite word, if you don't know that, favorite words. That'll add to our character. In other words, we're a unique place, and that uniqueness can positively differentiate us from everyone else. We very much need to see and to enhance this effort. That's the reason we have a master plan. Over the course of the last few months, as a community, we've discussed this in detail and set priorities for each of the individual segments in town. This has been done by talking to groups and individuals, by polling them, and getting them to use collective input to create a vision for the town. It is important to this community that we make a continuous effort and a continuing effort to implement the details of the plan as we go forward. Therefore, it's essential that you adopt this plan formally as a first step. Then you should make it part of the comprehensive plan, and then you should follow the actions on a continuous basis. And I'm recommending this, that you adopt the plan tonight. I know that's on the agenda to do. Instruct the town staff to implement the actions necessary to make it part of the comprehensive plan, and to establish, most importantly, a committee that will oversee the continuing action of the master plan. And that's all where I was going to say, but I got a couple more words. So, Steve, the other day, I was talking to him about it, and I had said to Councilor Ward that I thought we ought to have a subcommittee of the council set up. But I went and looked, and Steve asked me, he said, in the master plan, I mean, in the charter or any of the ordinances, is there anything about subcommittees? I don't know. So I looked. No, there isn't. But neither is there anything in state or our charters, our information that I could find that prohibited them. So next step, dig into Twyla's favorite document, Robert's Rules of Order. So I did that. And when I did that, I figured out basically that Robert's Rules, through saying a lot of other things, says that a subcommittee really should be part of the major committee, not include other people. So a subcommittee doesn't, in my book, doesn't really work. But it is important that you set a committee, and Robert's Rules tends to suggest that by motion on the floor, that the council would set everything in a motion that you were going to do, all the limits and everything else. And then you make the motion from the floor, and I'm suggesting that that motion would state the purpose and the duration of the committee, the type of committee, a special one, quantify the numbers of members, name the counselor or counselors, define who will appoint the other members or appoint them tonight, and then define the reporting intervals. That's very important that you define reporting intervals so that you can hear back on a reporting basis. We definitely don't want this committee to end up, this plan to end up on the shelf. So I'm encouraging everybody to argue it out or be bored or whatever, but solve it tonight. So thank you.
What else is there to say? Time to get some work done. So I think we're all ready. And my only other thought, I think building off of some of what Don said is, it was sometime this summer in one of the steering committee / joint meetings, I showed a table, a matrix with priorities that were listed in there, and as a tool that we can use to start saying, okay, what are the important things, what things cost more, what things are more programs and initiatives. The sooner we get the committee going, the sooner that document can come to life, and we can actually put that together in a meaningful way and set some real, the immediate need, of course, as most people are aware, is set some short-term, what are we doing this year and next? What's within our reach? What are some of the things that shouldn't take much effort, we just need to do it. So that's really the push here. Planning board's already rolling ahead full steam with design standards. That workshop starts tomorrow night. The online survey is open as of this Friday. So we're ready to go.
So pretty much what, Don, if he was demanding us to do something tonight, was the idea of actually set this committee in motion so it can be ready once this has been approved by the council. There's two things I think you're looking for us to do tonight, is actually set the direction for the committee and also vote on the idea of the 196 master plan as written, I do believe, to adopt it. Prior to doing that, some of the things that Don had actually mentioned, the idea of the name or purpose and the duration of the committee, which I think we can just hammer these things off one at a time. The name or purpose and the duration. I think the 196 Master Plan Committee is pretty straightforward, right? I mean, that's a pretty straightforward name. The duration, I don't think there is going to be an end to the purpose, but as far as for the committee, are we looking for just a duration to where renew on
For 30 years.
for 30 years?
Well, the only other way to do it is make a standing committee, and then you got to go through charter and everything else.
Yep. No, I mean, I think it could actually be renewed every year as the November vote. I mean, that way there it can come along with new councilors or there it's something that won't be forgotten about. So it would be annually renewed during the November, December election season, I guess. Because one of the reasons that would be important, because it may be members of the council that serve as a council may not be there to serve anymore if they are no longer on the council. So it'd be a good time to kind of redirect them. So it'd be in 1-year terms. The number of members, and I know Steve has worked on this a little bit, and there may be additional to actually add on.
I thought we'd have 5 members. We could grow that if you want down the road, but start with 5. And then you have to have counselors appointed to that as well. I've had some people step forward who want to participate and be part of that committee. One of them's in the audience tonight, Gina. Not this Gina, but that Gina. And I know Fern has said that when he's no longer a counselor, this is a committee he would like to serve on, which is a good thing. And Gina has also expressed her interest in doing something like that. So, and Karen, yep, has also stepped up, and of course, Don, we know that's a given that he wants to. I know. So you have quite a few members, so.
So we actually have the members. So the number of members, are we going to actually go with a 5 actually on the committee? I mean, any of these meetings is going to be open to the general public, and actually participation is going to be needed to bring this on. So to start with the 5 committee members, there is actually going to need to be a counselor. There's going to be one that's going to need to actually participate, since Gina and myself are no longer to be able to that role. Is there a member of the council that's looking to step up to be part of this committee? I mean, hopefully you're all involved anyways, because you're going to be one way or the other, so.
I wouldn't, I wouldn't mind doing it if no one else wants to.
We've got 2 new councils coming up, maybe that, we could wait until the next meeting when they're.
We could add another counselor
Yeah.
if the new people
Yeah.
want
I think it's one of those things that we just need an official name at this point in time. I'd be really disappointed if all the councilors weren't really involved in the process, because there's going to be something coming up. Define who appoints the other members or appoints them. When a motion is made, I would assume that would be done through the council.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And then set defined reporting intervals, whether it's quarterly. Amanda, you've seen more action with this in the past. I mean, do they typically report to the planning board or to the council? Is it usually done as like a quarterly type?
Probably, twice a year is probably enough. I expect there's going to be some nature of it where you're gonna have to be updated depending on just what the committee comes up with. And without the committee having even started yet, I haven't got a sense of what their timing is gonna be.
For the minimum, then it could be as much as it needs to be.
If they're sort of a formal report twice a year, you may not need them to report much more than that, because there's only gonna be so much progress you can make in 6 months.
All right, sounds good. So pretty much what we're going to do is entertain a motion. It's pretty much going to be that we adopt the 196 Master Plan Committee. It's actually going to be a 1-year term renewed at the same time the councils get renewed in November. It's going to be a 5-person committee. For this particular year, it's actually going to be Dylan Pesky that's going to serve as a council representative. If there's any changes to the committee, they actually will come out front of the council for approval. And the group will be reporting at least twice a year. I have a feeling it will report quite a bit more than that. I'd entertain a motion to move this part of it forward before we adopt the plan.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just have a question.
Sure.
Should we vote if we're going to be on the committee?
I think right now we kind of have to be in a sense, but
Okay, all right.
if we take away, I mean, we still can actually step aside.
They
But
decide not to.
Do we need to define who the residents who are going to be on the committee are specifically tonight?
actually, the one that's in the audience is here, Gina. And Don Fellows, I would assume, is still participating. And Karen Parody, yep. Both very active people, so. We can actually not vote, and I think this is still work.
Yeah, I think we're
so-
good.
Yeah,
I'd
we should
rather
be
All
go.
right. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay.
So order passed.
Yeah, the next item we're going to do is entertain a motion to adopt the 196 master plan as is presented in our packets. And again, this has had a lot of time, and as Amanda has told us many times, that this is kind of still a working document as we go through, and there will probably be some changes as time goes on, but right now it's a starting point that we need to get moving, get things started. Time to stop talking and start doing. So entertain a motion for this.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I think there's been a lot of effort put into this, and I think we've created a pretty useful document here, so hopefully this committee can really get it rolling and keep something good going here.
Keep it off the shelf.
Put it off the shelf. All those in favor?
Awesome.
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Full board.
Ordinance 2013-175, Finance Committee ordinance, first reading, roll call vote required.
This was a request by the Finance Committee. Right now, the ordinance reads as 5 full-time members and 2 alternates. The committee as a whole wanted to make the recommendation that instead of having the 2 alternates, make it a 7-member committee. And I know the council has talked about that in the past, so we've made just that change. We've deleted the alternate positions, and the membership will be 7 full voting members of the Finance Committee. So that's the first reading.
Entertain a motion.
Make the motion.
I'll second it.
And this is a vote to approve the Finance Committee ordinance change. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Roll call.
Whoops, you get it right. Thank you, Twyla.
Counselor Garrison?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Ward?
Yes.
Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
Counselor Pesky?
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, order did pass. 7-0.
Next item, please.
And it was passed. Ordinance 2013-176, supplemental appropriation ordinance. Second reading, roll call vote required.
This will be a roll call also, thank you. As we talked about earlier, at the last meeting, we had the first meeting, then we actually talked about it early a little bit. This is something that the council is well versed in. We've discussed this in the past, why this is and the purpose and how it needs to be done. And so I entertain a motion to pass it.
I do have a quick question real quick. On the actual document, Steve, it says $38,204, but last time we went with $39,925.
Is it the 39,000? It's a 38. 38,204 is what you will vote on.
So the last vote we had of 38,000, is that still gonna be valid with a different amount?
Is it,
I thought
'Cause the last
minute said 38,204.
the last document said 38,204.
I think it did.
Yeah.
And then, because Lisa questioned it and we changed it to 39,000, I went back and reviewed the tape.
39?
Yep, 39,925. Because I was questioning it, so I went and watched it again and made a note.
Why don't we just vote the 39,000? If there's an extra $1,000, it'll just roll back into the general fund anyway if it's unspent, so.
Good point, Mark.
That's probably what, the signature I saw on the ordinance that you signed had the 39.
Because it was going to be
925.
changed.
Okay.
So at this point, we actually haven't made a motion. It's actually, it was just
I'm-
discussion
I
prior.
don't see a motion yet.
So the motion that we'd actually bring forward is to actually approve this with the amount granted that was in the first reading.
39,925.
I'll
It
make
was the
that
first
motion.
reading.
I'll make that motion, yes.
Lisa Ward, did you make this one?
I did.
And who seconded it?
I did.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Thank you, Dylan.
I think the public needs to be aware that when you're negotiating with a union, it's like playing poker against someone. If you're playing Texas Hold'em with your opponent and you show them your cards, then they're gonna know how to play against you. So negotiating against the union, you have to keep your cards to yourself. You can't do it ahead of time. Last year, we voted on a budget and included a 2%, and the union knew we'd included the 2%, so they wouldn't accept anything less than that. So we weakened our own negotiating position by declaring it in advance. So, I mean, I think we have to have some flexibility there to be able to do that in secret, and we're trying to keep the taxes low for the public by doing that, and it's not something nefarious against the public.
Thank you, Mark. Roll call vote?
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Pesky?
Yes.
Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
Counselor Ward?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Garrison?
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, order passed.
Next item, please.
Other business, Finance Director's report.
Jessica.
Hello. So before you, you have my finance report for the month of October. To summarize revenues for you, October brought in $216,935. State revenue sharing is 33.7% collected at $192,000 versus last year at $278,000. Last year, at this time, we were 33.9% collected on a budget of $820,000. Our four-year average collection rate at this point in the fiscal year is 33.2%. So this is slightly below our year-to-date collection at 33.7. And what that means is that from a percentage standpoint, we are on track. What that means from a percentage standpoint is that we are on track with our historical trends for collection. Unfortunately, we are on a reduced sharing plan with the state, so it kind of plays with the numbers, but then that's why I decided this year to present from a percentage standpoint to show you that we're still collecting, and it's just our level is lower.
Expectations are lower, right?
Right. Excise tax is 36% collected with 435,000 compared to prior year at 432. So we're right on track. Our 4-year average collection rate at this point in the fiscal year is 34.2, so we're slightly above our average collection rate for excise tax. In October, we also received $16,000 in dispatch revenue. The rec department is transitioning between their fall sport offerings and their winter sports. The fall programs this year brought in approximately 83% of their projected revenue. We should see that number increase slightly as participants wrap up paying for their outstanding balances. That's all I have for revenues, unless you have questions for me.
Do you know what
Questions
town paid for the dispatch service?
Not off the top of my head, I'd have to go look.
Moxie is 240% over? Is that what I read? A percent collected on
In
your
revenues?
revenue?
1 second.
Just curious.
That is with the rec department. That's not the Moxie line for under economic development. That's Moxie with the
Road
rec
race.
department and what they do with the road race.
Sweet.
Moving on to the expenses, the total expenditures for the month of October were $880,113. This is $104,532 less than what we expended last year at this time. We currently have a savings over prior year to date of $358,000 from where we were expenditure-wise last year. Our personnel costs for October of this year equated to $310,000 or 35%, which is right in line with last year. This includes both wages and benefits. Lease purchases made up 36% of total expenditures, and that was at $316,000, and that's due to our annual debt service payments. We make those in October. Contractual services made up approximately 17% at $152,000. This is primarily due to the payment of our hydrant rental fees of $73,000, waste disposal fees of around $20,000, streetlights of $13,000, and then technology and assessing services that totaled $16,000. That is what I have for expenses. There are a few other items I would also like to address with you. To update you on tax collection, as of October 31st, we have collected 48.7%, or $5.1 million of the total tax commitment. Last year, we were 48.2% collected at this time, so we're right in line. We are slightly below where we should be at this point. In collections, we should be right about 50%, as we have 2 payments a year, so we should be around 50%. So we're a little bit low, but from a historical standpoint, we're not that far off from what we've collected in the past. On another note, I've had 2 people email me personally inquiring as to the structure of the police department vehicle purchases. If you don't mind, I would like to address this in a public forum so that all citizens may be better and more accurately informed. During the budget process, I bring before you as council the capital requests of all the departments. In the case of vehicles, they are discussed and approved as purchases. However, when it comes to budgeting for them, we only budget and raise through taxation for the anticipated amount of the lease purchase or the lease payment, as that is all the town is responsible for within the current budget year. To put it in perspective, it's like a citizen making the decision to purchase a home with their spouse for $200,000. It is discussed and researched as a whole unit between the buyers and ultimately the banking institution that they choose to go with. Upon agreement to purchase a home, the citizen will only pay their monthly mortgage payment of, say, around $1,000, while the banking institution will front the $200,000 for the purchase of the entire home. So while the citizen decided and approved the purchase of the entire home for $200,000, they only need to pay or budget $12,000 for that year, as that is all they will pay for an annual mortgage payment to the bank, not the full $200,000 in 1 year to the seller. I would also like to personally thank those citizens that reached out to the town seeking clarification of the information that they were provided erroneously in a personal blog. They should be commended for not believing everything they read in blogs and for taking the appropriate course of action to gain further understanding of what they were being misled to believe. That is all I have for you. Do you have any questions for me?
I do, of course, have a couple.
Absolutely.
Under police department, we had a capital purchase of $33,000, which was about $9,300 more than the budget. I was wondering, was that something special that had to happen because of a break, or?
Just want to make sure I get on the right page. Hold on
That's
one
okay.
second. That relates to the lease payments for the vehicles, and that line will be reimbursed once we are done furnishing those vehicles. Currently, the funds are with the bank in an escrow, and once the vehicles are equipped, as they should be, as part of the lease, we will be reimbursed by the bank to
Okay.
bring that back in line.
That'll happen this year?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That will probably happen before the end of this year, calendar year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then I think I had a couple more. Is that the same with the 5,500 lease purchase for fire department? Is it kind of the same thing, or? I just noticed that was overexpended by 5,500.
In that case, that is in regard to the lease payment that we anticipated for the air packs when we initially went out to bid for a lease. The rates were lower, and so we budgeted at that level.
Okay.
When we actually went to complete the lease, the rates were higher.
Okay.
And despite trying to I extended the terms even longer to try to bring the payment back down. And I went as long as I could, and this is as close as I could get. So that will be an over expenditure.
Okay. And my last one I have is under Moxie. There was an $1,800 expenditure. Was that leftover or, trickling in bills we had to pay?
Let me just get to the right line you're looking at. Oh, 1,800 there, okay. That is... Yeah, that was vendor revenue that came in for it. Yeah.
That was revenue, you said?
It was, well, it's on the vendor revenue line, so I'm assuming there was some sort of offset that had to go
Okay.
to the revenues. I can look into that and let you know.
Yeah, I
what
was
it
wondering
came
because it
to.
was under the expenditures, so.
Yeah, everything with Moxie is netted within
Okay.
the expense side.
Okay.
That's the line it hit, so I'd have to go in and see
That's okay.
exactly what
That's
it
okay.
is, but,
It just flagged my eye,
Yep.
that's all.
yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions from council?
Can I just, I like to synopsize things so that I can make sure that not only I understand, but that I feel that others understand more clearly. So the bottom line on the lease payments, the lease agreements, is we budget the payments, but we approve the totals during
Correct.
budget season.
Correct, because you can't, I can't come before you and get just approval for the lease
Right.
payment, because I can't run the risk with the bank of you not approving the second lease payment in the next year. I can't return the vehicle at that point. We are obligated as with any loan or lease purchase, for the goods that we are receiving. So we're in it for the long term, the entire purchase, but we budget only for the payment that we need to make in that year.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? Could you explain, there's a big difference between the average person that thinks about leasing a vehicle than the idea how the town or a business leases vehicles. And maybe you could explain it a little bit better, but typically a town or a company would actually do a lease-to-own type of funding, meaning that it's very much like going out and getting funding as a typical loan, but it's actually considered a lease. But at the end of the lease, you own the vehicle, which is quite a bit different than what the typical person when they're thinking of a lease, where someone would think, oh my God, you're actually, budgeted $30,000 and you're only gonna pay, $10,000 a year for a lease. It makes it sound like it's kinda not right. But the lease program is quite a bit different when it comes to a business or a municipality. And maybe you can just touch on that, because it is, at the end of the day, it's a lease, but at the end of the lease, we own the vehicle or whatever the equipment is.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why they're lease proposals, they call them leases. But everything about it is more of
Purchase.
a purchase. It's an extended term of purchase, because businesses, it's no different than a person going out and purchasing a car. They're going to get a loan from a bank and have their payments spread out over a period of time that they can afford. And I don't know why it's not considered, or why the documentation doesn't say loan. They call it a lease, and it's a lease to purchase option at the end. So,
It is what it is.
and the purchase portion of that comes with what we've already paid. There's no additional
Payoff at the end.
payoff. It might be $1 at the end. That's a standard
Lease agreement.
So.
Just some
it's-
people actually question the idea of us purchasing versus leasing, and it's basically the same thing, just if you're not familiar with
From a
the
business
terminology.
perspective, that's
It's the same
the
thing.
same terminology.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Sure. Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, I further encourage any citizen that has any questions in regards to municipal finance, that they can call and schedule a time to meet with me, and I'd be more than happy to go over any questions and alleviate any concerns they may have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
The town manager's report.
I don't have too much to say. Gina, Dylan, and I, and Tracy Stuber attended the Campus Commons Maine Historic Preservation Award Dinner. There were quite a few awards given that evening, 13 or plus?
18.
18.
It was 18.
It was a very nice affair. It was, Brunswick Housing received that award, and they showed photographs of the before and after, and it was quite impressive, just when you see what they started with. It was a nice affair. Roger can probably talk more about the rail to trail during his communications. I won't talk too much about that. Planning board survey is going out on Friday, like Amanda said and Dawn said. Hopefully, everybody on the 196 corridor takes a look at that and weighs in. It's important. We held our first regional communication committee meeting. People from Durham, Greene, and Sabattis were there. It was a very, very constructive meeting. A lot of positive things were said about how well the dispatch is working, and just the quality of service is great. So we'll be doing that on a regular basis, and I'm sure it will continue to be like that. That's all I have.
Perfect. Questions on that? Next item, please.
Did you want to hear the results from the November 5th election?
Absolutely.
Okay. Municipal balloting results for council at large, Christopher Brunel with 1,309 votes. For Council District 1, Eric McTevier with 554 votes. For Council District 2, Roger Stanley Beckford for 741 votes. For School Committee, George Karen, 863 votes. Tracy Austin, 1,159 votes. For Water Commission, William Bauer, 1,326 votes. And question number 1, the bond issue for the Rurumbo Mill. Yes votes, 492. No votes, 1,207. For question number 2, bond issue, water tank, yes votes, 619. No votes, 971. And question number 3, for the bond issue for the water main replacement, yes votes, 906. No votes, 685. And total ballots cast in Ward 1, 747. In Water District 2, 962. And for a total of 1,709 ballots cast.
Thank you, Twyla. Next item, please.
Next item is, there are no appointments, so it will be council communications.
Any communications?
Yeah, me and Steve attended the meeting in Auburn on the trails, rails to trails, yeah, I get that right. As it's still going forward. No nos. Steve, what have you got to write?
I've got to write a resolution for the council to vote on that you support the rail to trail, and Lewiston and Auburn will also do the same thing, and bring it to our legislators.
So it is moving, well, everything in government moves slow. This is moving slow, but no backwards, so.
It's moving forward anyways.
Moving forward.
That's good. Thank you, Roger. There's a lot of effort going on there, and then the end result's gonna be benefit everybody, but
Yeah,
there's
I
a few
think so.
people working on it right now,
Yeah.
so.
Definitely moving faster than the 10 years we waited to get our trails all in place.
Any other communications?
I have one. First of all, I want to tell you Moxie's moving along smoothly. And I'd just like to say that Moxie is a positive thing for this community, and it seems as though we have a certain one or two that are starting to attack Moxie. And I just hope that the community will stand up behind this if there are any problems coming up. There's a certain person that seems to think that Moxie isn't as positive as it is. So as we know, as a community, Moxie is a very positive force for this community. And to attack it is just plain wrong. So that'll be my last Moxie update. I feel like I should sing that Carol Burnett song she used to sing at the end of it, but I don't know all the words and I don't sing that great, so I won't. But it's kind of a bittersweet evening for me, and I really have enjoyed serving for 7 years. It's been a challenge, and as the last surviving member of the original council, I can tell you from day one, it was fun, it was challenging, it was not challenging, it was all of the above. And it was a learning process for all of us, and Fern joined us soon after, so he's been here almost as long. But it's something that I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed serving the community that I grew up in. The only other thing is, serving in a community where you grow up, things get very personal sometimes. And there are often a lot of accusations made, and there are often a lot of things that are said that are untrue, a lot of assumptions, and that's the most disheartening thing to me, serving through all of this. Oftentimes we know one another. Many of us that have sat on this council board, we live together, we've grown up together, we've gone to school together, and you know, we've done things for this community. There are many, many positive people in this town. There are people that have thanked me many times for what I do, and they have just shaken their head and said, I don't know how you people do it. I don't know how you do it. And you know, we don't satisfy all of the people all the time, but we try our very best, because every situation we're in is different, and oftentimes circumstances dictate what we're trying to do. The naysayers will never, ever make them happy. The head shakers and the negative people, well, you're going to get that everywhere you go, I guess. So I just want to say thank you to the town of Lisbon, and I will not go away. I'm going to be right back at it, and probably as involved as ever in a different capacity. So thank you, and I appreciate serving my town.
Thank you, Gene.
I had the opportunity to go to the Brunswick Housing Award. As Steve mentioned, it was a really nice event. It was a good dinner. Great to see all of the historical buildings that were revamped and brought back. $60 million worth of renovations were done between the 18 buildings. So it was really a great event to see. And then lastly, you know, I want to thank Gina and Fern for all the nights that I've called you or emailed you, hey, what is this? Or, hey, I'm confused on this situation, for really being there to help me go through and answer my questions. And I look forward to working with you and going forward. So thank you.
Anything else from council?
I also want to say thank you to both of you, Fern and you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, both of you, for your service. It's not always easy, and it takes some special character to step up here and be willing to serve.
The only reason that I started the council was because of Gina's cousin Dale. He wanted me to take his place, and the good people elected me first time. And one of the only reasons that I did come on was because of Gina and Bert. I could reminisce about Gina
Don't,
Way-
please don't, okay?
way back in the 70s. But
Yeah.
Vern, I can remember him running around in diapers, so that's, but I won't see Gina as much now, but I will see Fern. I do business with him, so we're always back and forth, but it's been very fun. That's all I can say. I've had a good time with this council.
Thank you, Roger.
I just want to, I know you get to have the last word. I just want to say that I consider it a privilege to serve with Gina and Fern, because they're both folks who honestly try their hardest to represent the people who voted for them. And not only that, to represent all the people in their districts. And as a counselor, I know how difficult that is. And as a citizen, I appreciate it, and as a counselor, I appreciate they've both been here for all of us when we have questions, when we want to know what happened on the council 6 years ago that everyone's buzzing about and we didn't know. We know who to ask. And we've all worked well together, and I think that moving forward, we look forward to using them as examples to moving forward and working well together. So I do appreciate that personally, and I think that a lot of people do. So thank you.
Thank you. Everybody else set? Okay, my turn. I love to talk, so you know how that works. So.
Do I have to limit you?
You do, yeah. No, actually fairly short. A couple things, we actually had a utilities meeting the other night. Basically, and just to get people up to debate on this and the council, we, last year, actually early this year, had actually put a bill forward to actually merge the water department in the town, and the water department actually put a bill forward to actually be a standalone water district. And a lot of that was just because there's been a lot of history with the town and the water department that I learned once I got on the council. Through the state process, there's a really good thing to happen. Really nothing happened, which actually was a good thing. Basically, the committee that actually looked at this told the two groups to go back home, sit at the table and talk, which was really interesting because we actually developed a utilities committee. We actually had multiple meetings where we actually discussed some of the concerns. We actually talked about other areas around us, between the idea of not just becoming a water district, but a water sewer, wastewater runoff, and we looked at all different avenues. And what actually happened through these meetings has really opened up a whole different level of dialogue with the water department, and actually it actually became really productive, and Roger can actually, and I know some of you other folks and Dylan actually sat through some of the meetings, and it was quite civil. And so the other night, we actually, before I got off the council, we had a wrap-up of kind of where we were. And one of the things that we wanted to bring forward is come January, we're going to go back to present back to the state, basically saying at this point in time, we've actually sat, we talked, we're working out the differences. It's still a work in progress. There's still a lot to be done. But it's actually we're sitting and talking, which they wanted us to do. The utilities committee group is going to stay intact. There's still a lot of work to be done. Eventually what's going to happen with the water department in town, we'll probably have a third-party vendor do an audit to see exactly how we would benefit by joining services. But I think at the end of the day, everybody realized from the discussion that there is money and the idea of sharing resources. And so I think it is an ongoing discussion. And we actually have minutes from the last meeting that I think Roger probably bring the next meeting and actually have adopted, just so they're actually to our minutes. The second thing I want to bring down is, and Ross is here tonight, and the Very Merry Main Street is actually coming alive. It's going to be December 7th, which is, I think there's one meeting in between, but I won't be sitting up here. 4:30 they're gonna start doing carols at the MTM, so everybody's welcome. Hopefully, we have a nice 32, 33-degree day with light snow flurries, you know what I mean, just the perfect, festive weather. And then at 5 o'clock is gonna be the lighting of the tree and Santa Claus, and that's gonna open up with a parade procession down Main Street with carolers in a wagon. It's actually gonna open up downtown, and there will be pictures with Santa Claus this year. This year, I believe it's gonna be bring your own camera, have a picture with Santa Claus at the Masonic Lodge. Most of this will be posted, I believe, on the Positive Change Facebook page. Perfect. Good things happening, positive stuff. So again, Mary Main Street, it's only as good as we make it. So let's try to make it good. That's all. It's pretty simple. Again, my final conclusion is kind of interesting. First of all, I just want to thank everybody of Lisbon. I mean, it's actually been it's been very enlightening serving on the committee. It's amazing as a citizen when you live here in town all your life, you think you know everything until you actually sit on a committee or serve on the council. And within the first 3 meetings, I realized that I didn't know jack about this town. I mean, how things worked. With that being said, I mean, very rarely is it done that we actually thank a town government, from the management to the staff to department heads to the employees. I actually was having a discussion with a taxpayer one time, and they were talking about all the stuff they see. And I was like, have you ever heard of someone dialing 911 and not having a police officer show up when they want them? I said, have you ever actually heard someone having a fire and have them not show up? A snowy day and not have a snowplow come by? Even though we change hours around we just have an awesome town. I mean, and there's a lot of people behind the scenes that work and do that. And I just want to thank the department heads and the staff, because it's been really enlightening. And the only thing I can think of is kind of like the Wizard of Oz, where you actually think of this whole town operating and someone behind the curtains pulling. There's a lot of people pulling strings in this town to make everything happen. And unfortunately, a lot of people are critiqued, but if they sat a day in their shoes, they wouldn't be critiquing anymore, because I'm not sure if people realize what it takes to make this town happen. And I've been enlightened. I've learned a lot, good and bad, but I've learned a lot, and it's actually been a great experience. So again, I want to thank the people who voted me in here, and I also want to thank the councilors, because I've been through a few different council groups, and it's always challenging. I mean, there's different varieties of people. We all have different interests and different looks at things, and I think that's what makes a council great. But the number one rule, I think, as a council we learned is as you get up as a council, you got to kind of look at the town's best interest and move forward. With the town, I mean, one of the things that I've actually seen is there's a lot of heroes in our town, and it's amazing when you sit back and you see people do things. And again, as I meant, our services, our police department, our fire department, our public works. I mean, there's just so many people behind the scenes, and you can't even limit that. I mean, it goes from all ends. Even Varilla out there mowing and cleaning on Sunday afternoon. It was just amazing, the people that take the time to do what they need to do. There's other heroes in town too, and Ross is right here tonight, and I got to pick Ross out of the crowd, because we talk about positive change, and if you could pick anybody in town that actually would wear that badge, it would be Ross. I mean, we've had discussions. Why do you do it? I mean, it's amazing. It's kind of like pushing a boat uphill. I mean, it just, there's no easy way of doing it, but you just got to keep doing it. And I told Ross the other day, he reminds me of the Volkswagen commercial. We have all kinds of passengers. We need drivers, and drivers want it. And Ross is a driver, and I got to congratulate him for that, because it's awesome. There's other people. I mean, we actually had people that complain about things in town, and I've heard of people, after us spending $10,000 to take care of weed control on the sidewalks, people complain about sidewalks and weeds. And then the day I came through, I actually had to stop on the side of the road, and as I was going by and just pause for a minute, here's George Karen from the school board on hands and knees with a vest, cutting the grass on the sidewalk out front of the high school the whole way. I mean, talk about dedication. I mean, for someone actually not to come to the town and complain about it, but actually get out there. I mean, he was literally on his hands and knees. And I had to stop him one day. I said, why'd you do that? I mean, that was really awesome. He said, because if I don't do it and show the kids, he said, how are the kids going to know that's just part of your civil duty, is actually taking care of your stuff? And that was pretty powerful if you think about it, And he was dressed up in his orange vest, and he was just out there on his hands and knees cutting grass all the way down the side. So, there is a lot of good, strong, positive people in this town. And as Ross said, and Gina, it takes positive things and make positive things and move forward. I mean, one of the downfalls I've learned sitting on this committee is, and it's happened just not to me, it's every chair that sat out front of me, is there's differences in town, what people think of what certain things are. And I can have a difference from anybody on this council, which is fine, but, you know, the last thing I would do is personally attack any of the people on this council. And the downfall is we actually have mechanisms in this town that actually do that quite well. If it's my biggest regret on this council since I've been here is not being able to take care of their harassment and the slander that happens to our town employees weekly from citizens of this town. I mean, there are citizens that actually, it's okay to disagree with somebody, but it's not okay to actually personally attack people for things that have nothing to do with this town just because you don't agree with them. And that's really saddening to me as a council that we can't actually have control. Freedom of speech is the greatest thing in the world. The freedom of slander, just punishing people from being just abusive, personally attack people just because you don't like them. That's not freedom of speech. That's harassment. That's something that is really sad. And, you know, it happens every day. We have people in town that get, in this building, they get harassed daily on Freedom of Information Acts just to get information. I mean, there's people in town that's cost this town tens of thousands of dollars for trying to get information, and basically information just to abuse the town. Perfect example tonight was for the police cars. Someone comes in, gets information, has no idea what that information is, and uses it. I had a relative, actually a family member, come home the other night, really, really upset, works in Freeport, came home saying, geez, tonight I learned in town that you councilors are screwing the town by actually charging them $40,000 for police cars and actually only using $10,000-15,000 of it for leases. Where are you guys pocketing the rest of the money? This is someone out of town, and this is in a very established business in Freeport that this is being discussed. And it's being discussed only because the people that actually get the information we give them have not a clue what it's about. And then they slander the town, they slander us and the people in it. You can have 10 people doing positive change, and if you have one person that actually just makes these type of comments, and the freedom of speech is great, the freedom of being that blatant and just slandering the town shouldn't be. You know, it really shouldn't be. And that's probably my biggest regrets. I mean, as a counselor and as a chair, I had the opportunity that the past 4 councils I've had as chairperson is to basically sit there and get slandered ourselves. You know, I mean, it's saddened that, you know, the last week of my father's life that I have to listen to people slander his credibility in town just because they actually come up with information they feel that they just need to, you know, prosecute somebody. It's saddened to actually have people talk about our police chief, our department heads, our management, when they don't deserve it. They come into work, they work hard. If you ever come to the town office, our staff works really hard. And they don't work hard to get slandered. They don't work hard to actually get abused physically. And if they don't agree, then it goes into a personal attack, which isn't fair. So I guess, as my final sayings would be, is I put a plea out. Larry Fillmore, the Lisbon reporter, Joe Hill, and Dot, go back to what your parents taught you. If you don't have anything good to say, just don't say anything at all. It's easy, plain and simple, because you really do a lot of hurt for this town. And if you don't take a whole lot of people to figure that out, because I'm sure tomorrow I'll have a personal attack on the Lisbon.net or the Lisbon Reporter, but you know what, I really don't care. I'm really concerned about this council moving forward, and the people that get here that got voted in are going to be treated the same way, and it's just unfair. It really is. Go back to basic things. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. Thank you very much. No, sorry. Freedom of speech is limited at certain times, and this is one of them, because typically what comes out, Larry, is what we heard the other night about the police cars. It's just bogus. Thank you.
And I have the documentation.
Larry, give it up. Thank you. And next item, please.
Is executive session, Order 2013-177, to go into executive session per 1 MRSA, Section 405, 6E, consultations with legal counsel regarding the sewer department fines from DEP.
No
Motion
vote
to
at
go
the
into
end, right?
executive session.
A second.
Okay, no vote. All those in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
Stay right here.
All set.
So we can turn off the recorders and you don't need it back, right?
I'm gonna take a bathroom break.
I don't see anything in this paperwork. 2013.